Once I had an old gray mare, once I had an old gray mare, once I had an old gray mare, she couldn't hear, she couldn't see. Took her down in the field of plow, took her down in the field of plow, took her down in the field of plow, that dang old fool, she didn't know how. I got down on my knees to pray. I got down on my knees to pray, and I scared that dang old fool away. Up and followed her track, Lord, I jumped up and followed her track. I jumped up and followed her track, and I found her in the mud hole, flat on her back. Once I had an old gray mare, once I had an old gray mare, once I had an old gray mare, she couldn't hear, she couldn't see. My name's Mark Small, Mark T. Small. I'm a American roots musician. And what that means is I play music that's anywhere from the 1700s all the way up until the 1950s. I play a few different instruments, but on the guitar I use two primary techniques. The first is with a flat pick or a straight pick. That's what I just did. And the second is called finger picking. I'll put these picks on here. This style you'll hear is very different from the flat picking style. And it comes out of the piano, actually. Guitar players, and I'll talk a little bit about this later on, but guitar players wanted to have that full orchestral sound that a piano has, and would be wonderful in a compact, a portable piano, as Reverend Gary Davis called it. So instead of playing with the flat pick, you would use the thumb and 2 fingers, 1, 2, or 3 fingers actually, and the thumb plays with the left hand of the piano plays, the bass end, and whatever fingers you're using in addition to that plays the high end. And you put them together and you have this orchestral sound. So I'll give you an example of that with a few tunes that I'm sure you know. There you go. Can you hear the difference between the two? Second is much more orchestral. Sounds like a whole band. You don't need anybody else to play that style. A little more tricky with a flat pick. So, tell you a little bit about the guitar. The guitar in this form has been around for about 4,000 years, between 4,000 and 4,500 years. It's called a chordophone because you make chords with it. The oldest one we know of belonged to a guy named Harmos, who was the entertainer for the Queen of Egypt's architect. And guitar was very rudimentary back then, as you can imagine, just playing a note and singing maybe. And the guitar didn't come to America until really 2 things happened. One, the Spanish-American War ended. The soldiers brought guitars back. And right around 1900, Sears and Roebuck offered guitars in their catalog for, I think, $2.70. And that was really what brought guitars to America. they couldn't keep up with the demand. And for years and years, again, very rudimentary instrument, you know, maybe a couple of chords, a couple of notes here and there. One of the big problems was that it was difficult to find someone to teach you to play. Rural America, they're just, you know, you couldn't go down to the corner music store, let alone find a guitar, you know, mail order a guitar. I think the first ones from Sears and Roebuck had a little instruction manual, and I think Spanish Fandango was the first tune in there, but it was really tough. It wasn't until really the turn of the century that this Spanish guitar with 6 strings started to take off. The older versions are the English guitars, which have double courses of 5, 10 strings in pairs of 2. The other challenge with guitars is that they were not that loud when you compare it to a piano or a violin. Man, especially playing outside, you couldn't get any volume at all out of them. The technology was not that good for the you know, building the guitar, and especially for strings. So they really took a back seat to the fiddle and the banjo. Speaking of the banjo, I brought a banjo with me, and I'll play a song on that thing. Let me just change instruments here. This was America's instrument. In the 1600s, 1 million Africans came to America, and they brought banjos and quills and drums and different instruments. Most importantly, they brought rhythm with them. And those folks went down into the southern part of the United States. The early version of the banjo that they brought had the 5th string, this little high string. And we know that from paintings. It's great that we have all these old paintings to look at that tell the story that might not be in a book. So it was largely a southern instrument until one thing happened. The Civil War ended. Prior to the Civil War, there weren't a lot of banjos up here in the Northeast, all down south. As a matter of fact, Civil War historians interviewed Confederate troops, and they said that the only music those guys knew was banjo and fiddle music. That was it. You know, where up here, we very much more European influenced, that listening music. So the Civil War ended. The banjo kind of made its way up north. They had the minstrel shows, which were horribly racist and just terrible. There was a guy named Joel Sweeney who was kind of the guy who listened to the players from the South and learned to play that way and kind of popularized it up here. He was kind of like Eric Clapton is to the blues, you know. Eric Clapton listened to the old American blues guys, tried to learn to play that way and brought that to the people up here. Joel Sweeney was the guy who did that with the banjo. I'm gonna play a song and then I'll tell you some more about it. And this, before I do, there are a few different styles of playing the banjo. There are a number of them, but primary styles or techniques. You have playing with 3 fingers, that's called Scruggs, after Earl Scruggs, Scruggs style banjo playing. The old style that came from Africa and was developed down in the South is called frailing with an F, or a claw hammer. Gets the name claw hammer because you kind of hold your hand like a claw and you hammer on the strings. That's the original old style, and that's what I'm going to play for you right now. It's an old Clarence Ashley tune. Gonna build me a log cabin on a mountain so high, so I can see Willie Boy as he walks on by. Well, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles when she flies, but she never says cuckoo till the 4th day of July. I played cards in England, I played cards in Spain. I bet you $5 I can beat you this game. Well, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles when she flies, but she never says cuckoo till the 4th day of July. Jack of diamonds, I know you from old. You robbed my whole pockets of my silver and gold. Well, the cuckoo, she's a pretty bird, and she warbles when she flies, but she never says cuckoo till the 4th day of July. There you go, the cuckoo, Clarence Ashley. So again, that's an example of the old style, the old clawhammer style of playing. The banjo really was at the forefront, and a lot of the reason was the volume. And you gotta consider that people played at picnics and things where you needed a loud instrument for that. Even a guitar that size, you take it outside and the sound just dissipates. Not a banjo. And this is a very small banjo. This is an A scale, a short scale banjo. You get a bigger body, it's even louder than that. We're plugged in, of course, but it's twice as loud as a guitar. So the banjo started migrating up into the Northeast and became tremendously popular. So popular that you had Fairbanks Banjo on Boylston Street in Boston. Across the street, you had Cole Banjo manufacturing. Right across the street. They could not keep up with demand. They did a survey in about 1880 of the number of banjos in Boston. Now, at that time, there were 200,000 people living in Boston, right? So let's say 75,000 households. Out of 75,000 households, they counted over 10,000 banjos. Believe that? I mean, they were just everywhere. Very, very popular. And the shortcomings of the guitar are part of that reason, you know. There were some guys, I didn't bring a resonator guitar today, but the Dopera brothers came here from Czechoslovakia, and they made resonator guitars. They were making banjos. They made these guitars that kind of had the resophonic sound that the banjo has that helped with vaudeville and things like that. They made those until right up until World War II. They made them stop because they needed the metal for the war. And when World War II ended, Leo Fender and Adolf Rickenbacker had invented the electric guitar, so it already kind of pushed that out of the way. But the banjo endures, man, I'm telling you. It's this is America's instrument. You know, talk piano, nope. They were playing those in Europe forever. Violin, no, same thing. Guitar, no, came from Spain. The banjo was developed here. It came in a rudimentary form from Africa, came here and was developed here. So it really is America's instrument. Let me switch back to the guitar. Again, my name is Mark T. Small. I'm an American roots musician. I live in Somerset, Massachusetts. I love Somerset, and I play at about a 250-mile radius from here. I play everything from little clubs and house concerts to places like the Narrow Center for the Arts in Fall River here. We've opened for a bunch of big international acts there, John Mayall and Johnny Winter and James Cotton and a bunch of folks. I play some other venues like that, again, within a 250-mile radius. I started playing when I was a teenager, playing acoustic music, and I loved folk and bluegrass and old-time music. And in my 20s, I started playing electric guitar and played in bands and rock bands and blues bands and so forth, and gravitated back to the acoustic guitar and playing solo about 20 years ago, and it's what I love the most. Speaking of development, I'll give you a little overview of guitar styles. I may play some ragtime later on, but I want to tell you that every form of American music is rooted in ragtime. Prior to ragtime, everything was on the beat. John Philip Sousa, all that stuff on the beat. Right at the end of the Romantic period, that was it. Around 1895, ragtime hit, was an explosion. Doctors were telling people, don't listen to ragtime, it's bad for your health. Just like rock and roll, the early days of rock and roll, people, kids would go to concerts and breaking chairs over each other's heads. The music just made them crazy. Ragtime was that same kind of thing. So here you have the guitar kind of not doing a whole lot, especially in folk and country and hillbilly and that kind of stuff, for all those reasons that I mentioned. And then A.P. Carter, if you watch the Ken Burns special on country music, he talked about Maybelle Carter and A.P. Carter, how they went out and collected all these songs. Well, Mother Maybelle Carter came up with something called the Carter Scratch. And she played like this. She was kind of like the early, finger picking. She'd take her thumb, she'd hit the bass note, and then she'd do this. And people were amazed at that. That was the guitar stepping out. Early 1900s. So remember, at the same time that this is going on, ragtime is taking off and everybody wants to hear the piano. So the guitar players out there wanted to do everything they could to sound like a piano, like that finger-picking song I played for you, that orchestral stuff. I think 1900, Maple Leaf Rag came out. It was the first tune to sell 1 million copies of sheet music. Ragtime was the thing. So the early part of the 1900s, the blues guys started doing stuff like this. That was a big deal, a real big deal. I mean, you gotta realize that all the music up until that point, the guitar was like in the background, just playing a little bit of rhythm. So all the music is, I mean, that's pretty hip stuff, especially for back then. And it developed. You had Blind Lemon Jefferson up in Dallas, and that music migrated down into the Mississippi Delta. You had guys like Lightnin' Hopkins. That's very Lightnin' Hopkins. Very much like Lightnin' Hopkins. Son House and these guys playing this fingerstyle, the beginning of the solo blues guy type movement. Prior to that, the blues was all the blues queens, Bessie Smith and Ma Rainey, very much vaudeville type of blues. So here comes the guitar stuff, and it became more and more sophisticated on the guitar. Here's one. There were 3 Willie Browns. This is one of the Willie Browns. The basis of it. I won't play the whole thing. I'll just play a piece for you. Listen for the piano. What your woman's bound to do. A woman is just like the weather. Never can tell what she's bound to do. Sometimes she's liable to clown up and rain on you when you least expect your woman to. There you go. It's a little bit of Mississippi blues and some other things. I'm going to tune up here. So that was a big deal for guitar players. And even today, that's pretty comprehensive stuff on the guitar. You know, I'm no classical guitarist, but I've played a little bit of classical music on the guitar, and it's no harder than that. So you had the solo guitar, solo blues guy movement, traveling guys like Robert Johnson, I'm sure you've heard of, playing that type of stuff, finger picking. Later on, the electric guitar was invented. You had the bass guitar, you know, the low notes and the drums. And you had guys like Muddy Waters playing the Chicago style blues, this heavy, grinding type blues stuff. And although it seems ancient, it seems like that's been going on forever. You know, the first time the Europeans heard Muddy Water or heard Chicago style blues was Muddy Waters' 1958 tour of Europe. Before that, they didn't know what that was. And all of this stuff is the precursor to rock and roll. So, I mean, I obviously don't have a drummer and a bass player, but I'll give you a feel for that type of music just as a one-man band. Okay, so picture the finger picking the last tune, how it's melodic and all of that stuff. And now listen to how this is more of a grinding, that Chicago more urban. Finger picking more country, this is more urban. I have had my fun, if I never get well no more. I have had my fun, if I never get well no more. My health is failing me, believe I'm going down slow. Please write my mama, tell her the shape I'm in. Please write my mama, tell her the shape I'm in. Tell her to pray for me, forgiveness for my sin. Don't call no doctor, no doctor can do no good. Don't call no doctor, no doctor can do no good. Oh, it's my fault, baby, I didn't do the things I should. I have had my fun, if I never get well no more. I have had my fun, if I never get well no more. My health is failing me, believe I'm going down slow. So can you hear the difference? Kind of starting to sound like rock and roll, right? I hope you'll visit my website, marktsmall.com, marktsmall.com, and come to a show or have CDs for sale. You can get those through the website or at shows. I have a new one coming out in April called American Roots that is a lot of kind of what I've talked about today. It's a mixture of stuff. It's not just blues, it's some of the old-timey stuff. All right, thank you very much.